education. 70% in just 6 years. So what that means is if you don't graduate, you're cooked. If you do graduate but you're not ready to access career in college, you're also cooked. But if we are not able to dramatically raise graduation rates and get more kids career and college ready, our region is cooked. Because we have a knowledge-based economy in the Twin Cities, and the people who are going to be able to prosper in the knowledge-based economy have to go on to some post-secondary. It doesn't mean everyone's going to go to a four-year college. It does mean everybody has to be ready to go to college, and then they may make different choices, but they have to be ready. So this is really an imperative that is really critical that we understand, because our region's economic health and our workforce, our capacity to have the workforce we need to be prosperous is completely dependent on how much we invest in youth and how much we can improve outcomes for kids in the Minneapolis public schools and elsewhere. But the other thing I would say to you is that this isn't just about workforce development, this is about citizenship. We are blessed to live in a community with the highest percentage of volunteers in the country. More people volunteer in the Twin Cities area than anywhere else in the country. We have some of the highest levels of giving, charitable giving, of anywhere in the nation. And we have a really robust civic culture here. And so it's important that young people are educated not just to get a job, but to be the citizens of our country, to be the citizens of our community, and to be able to lead themselves someday. So it matters that we educate young people and that they're educated both for work and for citizenship. So what I'd like to do is talk about where we try to affect this at Achieve Minneapolis, and then get to your questions. So the first thing is, we're very pleased to run what we call career and college centers in every high school in the Minneapolis public schools. These are centers that came into the Minneapolis public schools because the business community, led by former Medtronic CEO Win Wallen, said this has to happen. So there was millions of dollars of initial investment to bring career and college centers in every Minneapolis high school. Achieve Minneapolis runs those career and college centers. They're full-time centers run by professional staff. Most of the people are licensed counselors. They provide a plan for every single high school student in Minneapolis, so that's about 9,000 kids every year are served by the centers. They include test prep, financial aid information, how to search for a college, access to college representatives. It's a full-service center that helps all kids get ready for college. Well, why is this important? Well, if you grow up in a middle-class family, your family's probably talking to you about college once a week at the dinner table from 6th grade on, maybe earlier, maybe later, but there's an active conversation. If you come from a family that has no connection to college, maybe first generation, maybe immigrant, that conversation can't happen. It's not in the experience of the families. So we make it happen for every kid through our career and college centers. The second thing that we do at Achieve Minneapolis that we're very proud of, and which my colleagues Kevin and Jeremiah are here to also share the stage with me, is we run the Step Up Achieve Summer Jobs program along with the City of Minneapolis. Last summer, about 2,000 young people in Minneapolis were put through a very rigorous work readiness program that we run on behalf of the City of Minneapolis. Of those 2,000 young people who went through work readiness, and by the way, they get a credential from the Minneapolis Chamber of Commerce, 750 of those young people are considered highly qualified enough to be placed in jobs in the private or public sector in which the wages are paid by the employer. The rest of the young people are put in what would be a more traditional city jobs program. Their wages are subsidized, and they tend to work in places like the parks or community centers or that kind of thing. But the really unique program we have in Minneapolis, which I believe is a national model, is a program that invites the private sector to come in. Many of you may do this in your businesses. Employ young people, learn about the kids in our city who are pretty spectacular, learn some things about cross-generational work, about multiracial work, and really help a young person see a future that they didn't know existed for them. So that's Step Up Achieve. we could talk a lot about it, but let me just say that one of our the two big innovations this year, we're going to be providing year-round employment for some young people, beginning to take this from a summer program to a year-round program. And secondly, we're working to build what we call career pipelines in industries which we know have a big future in Minnesota and in this region. So that would be financial services, healthcare, legal services, help me with this. STEM-related fields. So these kind of fields which the demographers and the economists have said have real job earning potential in our region. We are trying to build a systematic pipeline for young people as teenagers into those high wage sectors. And then finally, we do something that we call community engagement, and that is our belief that when people know and care, they will do something about it. So we educate our public about issues in the Minneapolis Public Schools, just like I'm doing today. We invite you to become volunteers in our schools. We've developed a new program called Graduation Coaches, where we would pair you one-to-one with a high school student to help them through the graduation process. We have a program of parent coaches working with first-generation parents. And we tried to do something this year which is really kind of fun, called Success Speakers, which is we are training you as professionals to be able to talk to young people in our schools. You know, it's not everybody who goes and talks to, you know, an urban young person who's got a pretty different frame of mind than you do. So what we do is work with cross-generational, again, communication, multicultural communication, but helping you be a good representative to young people by telling them a good story. And in exchange for that, you basically get certified as somebody who knows how to talk to youth, and you get coaching and training yourself. So, I could talk for hours about this. I'm really passionate about it. I want to tell you two stories before I end. One is about a young person that we met last year who was at Patrick Henry High School, and she had a job with the Step Up Summer Jobs Program. And in order to do her job, and she came from a very low-income family, and she happened to become homeless during the time that she was doing her step-up job. She worked her step-up job, I don't know, 9 to 5. Then she went to her fast food job from 6 to 11, and then she found a different person's couch to sleep on every night between maybe 12 and 6 in order to get to her step-up job the next day. And she successfully completed all of it, and she's successfully completing school. So we can make that kind of difference. The other person I want to tell you about has got a little bit bigger profile. His name is Hashim Yunus, and he is a young man who came to the United States as a refugee from Somalia when he was 14 years old, came here via a Kenyan refugee camp, spoke no English when he came, really focused young man, ended up learning his English quickly, getting a step-up job, worked for the mayor, worked for a law firm, found himself with a full ride through St. Olaf, and came back to Minneapolis Public Schools immediately following graduation at the age of 22 to be what's called a school administrative manager. It's sort of comparable to an assistant principal at the age of 22. At 14, he didn't speak English. And so we can do it. I'm here to tell you that we can do it. It requires all of us thinking about what we can do, and I know you do a lot. If you personally can't do it, you can at least talk to somebody and say, you know, join this. But if we are successful, we serve not only the interests of really deserving youth in our community, but we really serve ourselves and our future. Because then we secure our future. Those of us who are aging, we want these kids working, we want these kids stable and secure, and we want them contributing to this community, because we'll all be richer for it. So I encourage you to join us in this endeavor, and I invite any questions. I'm game for whatever you want to talk about.
Thank you.
Right here,
Okay.
podium still, and you'll have lots of questions because
All right.
we're education oriented.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Up by the red light.
There was one It'll come. There we go. Thank you for coming. I think all of the things you're doing have great value, especially the bringing people into the schools to talk to kids, helping them be effective in that way through junior achievement and other things. Members of our club have done that. And the linking of coaches with kids. Most of the established programs that you talk about are things that are outside of the classroom. They're in the school, so the college and career centers are great, the school things are great, but the kids are failing in the classroom. Yeah. I'm sure I know you know all about this. I'm wondering, what does Achieve Minneapolis do to affect that?
Yeah.
Because it's the learning that has got to improve. The outcomes are going to be what they're going to be.
Yeah. So I really appreciate the question, and because I come to this position having served on the Minneapolis School Board, I know a fair amount about this topic. And what I would say to you is Achieve Minneapolis doesn't directly do anything about academics in the school. I think the closest we get as an organization is to believe that we have to hold that system accountable for results, and to be sure that the community understands what the real situation is and how far we need to go. But I can tell you a few things of what's happening in Minneapolis Public Schools that I think are really, bright stars. First of all, the superintendent is very focused on reading by 3rd grade as a major priority of her work. She has driven early education money, which, by the way, she has to take out of her K-12 budget further down in terms of hitting more 4-year-olds with it. So she has to take money from K-12 and put it down to 4. She has been very focused on teacher effectiveness, and so she has worked for a couple of years to create with the teachers a fair rubric for teacher evaluation. So we're way ahead of the state of Minnesota on teacher evaluation, and as you know, this is a big topic nationally. And then she has doubled down on something that she calls focused instruction, and that is that we need to have a system-wide coherent curriculum, K-12, that is across all schools with this common assessments and common professional development. Now that might seem, on the one hand, obvious, but we haven't had that in the past. It's a little bit of however you want to teach these things, you get there. It doesn't mean we're telling teachers how to teach, but it is saying that we will tell teachers what standards must be taught, what must be accomplished by what grade level to keep kids on track. We have a very reform-minded superintendent. It's a tough job moving a big public bureaucracy in the right direction. I do think she's on the right track, but the proof's going to be in the pudding, and we all have to watch the results in the next couple of years. But we do stay one step removed in the supports that we bring.
You say career and college ready, and I get a high emphasis on college ready and not much on career. You have a gender gap in college ready that's very significant. How are you dealing with that? I employ technical people who probably make more money if they went to college. I have employed people who flunked out of college and probably making more money if they graduated. Plus, there's a statistic that in the last 30 years, the BA starting salary has increased by $1,000. And is college a good route for most people, most kids? And it seems like every high school says X% of our kids went to college. Nobody says X% of our kids became productive citizens.
So I'm really glad you asked this question. I'm just coming off of a pretty significant conference about 6 blocks away about this. So here, I think this is a really critical thing for us to get our heads around. When I say all kids are college ready, it does not mean all kids are going to go to college, but it does mean all kids have to be able to access college should they choose to do that. So it means we can't decide in 9th grade or 7th grade that, as we did for many years, that some kids are going to go on the vocational track and some kids are going to go on the college track. We do need to prepare all kids for college level work. And you probably know this, in most technical fields right now, the level of math people have to have, the level of analytical skills is really high.